If you're actually doing any of the following 5 things I mentioned in this video, then you need to fix them, and I'm going to give you solutions on actually how to fix these issues. These could be the 5 things which are actually stopping you from reaching your financial goals, and they could be the things which are actually keeping you poor. So we're going to start with high interest debt. If you're actually in any high interest debt at the time of watching this video, it should be your number 1 priority to actually get out of this, and it should be avoided at any means necessary if possible. The 2 most common types of high interest debt which you actually find yourself maybe getting into, or you know people that are actually in this sort of debt. The first one is credit card debt. You guys will probably see on the channel in the future or videos which I've actually posted in the past. I'm a huge advocate for using credit cards. However, that's only if you're actually using them correctly. So many people abuse credit cards because they have a high credit limit, or they think it's just free money because once you spend the money, you don't see it going out your account until you have to pay it back the month after. So people kind of abuse the power of having a credit card, and it ends up biting them in the end when they realize they actually have to pay it back. If you're actually using a credit card properly, this is amazing. You can get nice credit card points, you get access to airport lounges, you get credits on Uber, different restaurants, different hotels, and I just love credit cards. Everything I buy is on a credit card if possible. I love American Express because you get a lot of points, you get access to all the lounges, you get priority pass in airports. It's just amazing. But this is only good if you actually pay it back on time every single time. Firstly, if you don't pay your credit cards back, you're going to see a decrease in your credit score. If you're looking to buy a house, maybe get out a mortgage or get out a loan for anything, maybe you're buying a watch, setting up a business or anything, you're not really likely to be actually offered a loan if your credit score is low. What decreases your credit score? Unpaid credit card bills. So you are getting in this high interest debt, and you're also decreasing your credit score in the process. So if you actually do have any credit card debt, the best thing to do is to pay it off immediately. Let's say you have to sell something, you have to sell a PlayStation, sell a bike to pay it off. This is advisable because a lot of these credit cards nowadays have hundreds of % in interest. So I've seen some cars 200%, 300%, 400%, which you actually have to pay back if you don't pay your bill on time. A lot of people, they actually have credit card debt, but then they have money sitting in a savings account and they just pay it back, little by little every single month. But because of the high percentage, you're never going to get out of this situation. You have to use the money which you actually currently have. If you have money sitting in a savings account or in a bank account, and you're not using this to pay back your high interest debt, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. The snowball effect is going to be against you. You're going to be running down that hill. It's going to be chasing you down, and eventually it's going to eat you up, and you're not really going to have any money left to actually do anything. And you won't be able to spend any money because you're constantly paying back debt. Obviously, for some people, this isn't an option. You can't just have the money in your bank account to pay it back. And, this is fine. Obviously, it's not fine. It's not a good situation to be in, but you could possibly transfer your balance to a card which actually is 0% until the time runs out. Finally, the final solution for this credit card debt situation which you're actually in is to maybe take out a loan which has a small fee. So a small interest in comparison to the large interest from your credit card. So let's say your credit card has a 275% interest fee and a loan you're actually taking out only has 5%. You're better off taking out this 10K with 5% to pay off your 10K credit card debt, because you're going to be paying less interest to pay back that low interest loan than you are paying back your credit card debt. So you want to just reduce the amount of money you're paying in interest in the most convenient way possible. And any loan which you're actually offered from a bank is going to be a lower percentage than credit cards. So if you can do this, if your credit score hasn't diminished, to 0 by now, then try and get out a loan to actually pay this off immediately. Second high interest debt is new cars and finance from car dealerships. So let's say you're buying a new car, you can't afford to buy it cash, or obviously it's not advisable in most cases, then you just decide to take out a loan or you finance the car. This is often, in the region of 10%, so higher than the traditional bank loan. you're obviously paying 5% more than the current interest rates, even though they are relatively high at the moment. If you compound this over the period of time which you actually have to pay it back, and then you take into account the depreciation of the car which you're actually driving, in some cases can be up to 60-70% depreciation. I've seen the BMW i8 actually depreciates, I think 50% the first time you actually drive the car from brand new. So you're already losing 50% of the value just by pressing accelerate, driving out of the car dealership. They lose 60% on average in their third year. So within 3 years, they've lost 60% of their value. So you can't even sell it for the same price anyway. Let's say you want to buy a car, but you can't afford it. Obviously, I'm going to say don't buy the car, but let's say you really, really want it and you can afford it, but you can't buy it cash. Take out a low interest loan rather than financing and just buy it secondhand. Let's say a car is 3 or 4 years old. It's obviously, you might want a new car. Everyone wants a brand new car, but financially speaking, it's not advisable. So you're going to want to take out this low interest loan to actually buy the car. So you're not having to pay back 10%, or even if you buy on a credit card, it'd be even worse. And you'd be paying back hundreds of percent from this. Even if it's only a year, 2 years, 3 years old, you're going to get a heavy, heavy discount. Like I mentioned previously, up to 60% discount from the new purchase price, which is obviously very, very nice for the same car. And if it is relatively still quite new, you will still be covered by the manufacturer's warranty, which does cover you if the car does break. And number 2, this is no emergency fund. So a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. Let's say their company that they work for pays them 2k a month, 1500 goes to all their expenses, they have 500 left, and then they think, oh, I've got £500 left, let me just spend this money. If you live like this, then you need to sort your situation out. The main reason why you'd actually want to start an emergency fund is from unexpected expenses. This could literally be anything. Your fridge freezer could break. How are you going to store your food? You don't have an emergency fund because you spend every penny you make. Your car breaks down. You have to go and take it to the garage to repair it. How are you going to pay for it? Let's say you become ill, unfortunately. You're very, very sick, you can't work, and you don't get paid to actually stay at home and be sick, or let's say you're in the hospital. You most likely aren't going to be paid for this. So you need to have money to actually pay all your bills, which you are required to pay to live. And if you don't have money to fall back on, this can be a very, very dire situation to be in. And it brings us back to step 1. You can be forced to take out high interest debt from a credit card, or maybe a 5%, 10% loan to actually pay all the expenses which you require at this current time. Your move after you've paid off your high interest debt should be to start an emergency fund. Even if it's only 1 month of rent, obviously this isn't ideal. You should have 3 to 6 months actually in an emergency fund. This gives you enough time to actually, let's say you lose your job, you can't pay your expenses, an unexpected expense comes up, like I mentioned previously, you'll have enough to cover this. It won't take you 6 months to find a new job, hopefully. So this does give you a lot of time to actually, live your life normally as you would do day to day, without having to worry about scraping money together to actually pay your expenses. And you want to keep this account separate from your normal accounts. So you only want to be able to access it if it is an absolute emergency. So let's say the new games console comes out, you're not going to want to use this emergency fund towards buying that. You're going to want to keep it completely separate, so you can only access it if it's in a complete emergency. Number 3 is lifestyle inflation. If you guys have watched the channel and maybe you've learnt how to start a business, you've learnt some side hustles, and you're starting to make a little bit more money now. Let's say your income's gone from 2.5k a month to 5k a month, maybe even 10k per month. And you're thinking, I'm making a nice bit of money now. Maybe I can buy a new handbag, buy a watch, stay in a better place, get a penthouse instead of a second floor apartment. These are all situations which a lot of people actually find themselves in. And this is because of their lifestyle inflation. And it isn't uncommon to see someone or hear of someone that is making 6 figures per year that is living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people think, oh, this person's making 120k per year. They must be living an amazing life. Oh, what would I do if I made 120k per year? But if their expenses are 120k per year, it's not really too great. Someone making 40k per year, their expenses are only 20k, they are able to obviously profit 20k per year, which they can invest, they can save, and overall they're actually better off than the person that's actually earning 120k per year. If you actually are becoming a victim to lifestyle inflation, and let's say you start getting a nicer car, you start spending money on your rent goes from 1k a month to 5k a month because you're making a bit more money, it can all add up. And you got to be very, very careful from this, because your income could disappear very, very quickly. You could lose your high paying job. Your business could have an issue with the payment processor. You can't actually have any money coming in. Instead, what you should do, if your income does increase, for example, 2k a month to 10k a month, you should use this extra 8k a month to focus on investing and saving money. So put a portion away for investments, put a portion away for savings, just so you can live your normal life, but then you have extra money to invest and to spend. So you can pay everything normally, you're obviously more comfortable, and then you will have more extra to spend as well, because you obviously have an extra 8k. But you are going to want to allocate some of this to investments and savings. Next one is paying full price for items. When you are buying something that is, a high price, let's say you're buying a Rolex, a watch, a car, anything like this, you're going to want to consider how much you can actually sell this for when you actually expect to sell it. So, for example, if you are buying a watch, and it's a high price. Let's say the watch is £20,000. If you are buying this from a dealership, obviously watches is going to be a different situation from cars. If you're buying this watch from a dealership, you're going to get it a lot cheaper than you are going to be able to buy it secondhand from a private dealer. This is the complete opposite for cars. Obviously, if you buy it from a dealership, you're going to be paying a premium. You're going to probably be spending a few £1,000s more than if you do buy it privately. So you got to consider, if you're actually buying this car for 45k, you drive it for 2 years, how much are you actually going to be able to sell it for? If you buy it from a dealership, you're obviously going to be able to sell it for a lot less than what you actually paid for it. Whereas if you're buying a car secondhand, you're going to be able to get a lot closer to your original purchase price than you are going to be able to do from the dealership. With a watch, this is the complete opposite. If you buy it from a dealership, you're going to be able to get a lot higher price than if you did buy it secondhand in the first place. So before you actually make any high price purchases, be sure to do your research and don't pay the full price if you don't have to. If you have to buy something that's a year, 2 years old, do this to preserve your money. Always ensure you're getting a good deal on the items which you're actually purchasing. And the last step is not investing early. I see so many people trying to time the market, and there have been so many studies done to provide evidence for this, that the more time you're actually in the market, the better your returns are going to be. The sooner you start investing, the better your returns are going to be. It's as simple as that. Luckily enough for myself personally, I knew about investing when I was 16, 17, before I actually turned, the age which I could actually put my money into these investing accounts. So I've been in investments since I was 18, so for the last 2 years. And I'm very, very glad I've done this, because I've bought in at very, very good prices. I've been consistent every single month, buying in to index funds, buying into stocks, everything like this. And you're just better off investing sooner rather than later. The best time to invest was yesterday. It's as simple as that. Obviously, you could buy now and then price drops 5% tomorrow, but that doesn't matter. As long as you keep investing and compounding, that's the only way to actually make money in the financial markets. If you keep investing and stop trying to time the market, it's going to be a lot better, because let's say price does drop, it doesn't really matter, because that will just help your position. You'll get a lower average stock price, and if once it goes up, you're going to make a nice bit of profit. But let's say you buy, it keeps going up and you keep buying, this is also fine, because it just shows consistency in the markets, and that is what pays. The more time you're actually in the markets, the more money you're going to make in the long run. So in conclusion, the main reason why people do stay poor and they don't actually escape the rat race or break out of the matrix, so to speak, is because people live way above their means and they don't leverage the money they actually have to make more money. Instead, they use it to rack up credit card debt, buy expensive cars brand new on finance, and use their money not for investing, not for saving, but to just spend in other ways. You have to plan for the long term. In 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, you will thank yourself if you actually take the steps today to start an investing account, start paying off your credit card debt, look for good deals on secondhand cars instead of buying everything brand new all the time. And maybe in 5-10 years, you'll have a nice, comfortable financial situation to actually live in, which will be a lot nicer for you guys if you actually do listen to the advice in this video.